Hey, let's remake the Jonas Brothers song, Wings. First up, we have this really nice Rhodes sound that is doing kind of a pedal in F minor while changing the chords on top of it. And it sounds like this. And it's using an awesome technique called voice leading, where the chords kind of follow the melody line. For this particular Rhodes sound, I am using Keyscape's Rhodes LA Custom Percussive, and I've just made minor adjustments to try to get the tone as close to the record as I could. The main thing being I've added a bit of extra saturation to get a bit more of that old tape sound that they have. And then I'm on the bus with all the keys, I'm adding a bit more compression and I'm adding a bit more chorus. And now we get to the meat of the song, which actually took me a second to figure out. But that clav thing that you're hearing underneath, it's almost like a Stevie Wonder, like higher ground kind of vibe. And that sound is made using a combination of the classic clavinet sound with some wah on it, or a filter, whatever you want to call it. And then actually, I think they're using a CP70, which is like this classic electric piano sound that is very distinctive. So what they're doing is they're kind of separating the part into the clav kind of copying the bass line, and then the CP70 is kind of holding down the chords. So here's what the clav part sounds like on its own. And so that's maybe not exactly what he's doing, but it's my closest interpretation just by trying to learn by ear, and it gets the vibe down. So now here's the CP70. Like, it's definitely that classic, like, What a Fool Believes kind of Michael McDonald sound, and I love it. And when you throw those two together and compress them together, this is what it sounds like. And of course, you have this awesome turnaround that's doing the shots. So once again, for that clav sound, I'm using the Keyscape, using the clavinet. I didn't do much to it. I just picked the filter setting with the auto wah. And also Keyscape, we have the CP70, which is that sound I was talking about, and I didn't really do anything to that either. The next layer is I just played some live bass, like I said, kind of doing what the clav part is doing, more or less. The bass is a little bit like not distinct in the mix, so it's harder to hear what's going on. So I did kind of my best impression of what I thought it would sound like. So for that bass sound, I'm pretty much doing a direct in signal and just adding a little bit of compression and EQ to shape it, but I'm not doing much. Next up, we have these super fat sounding 70s drums. So what I did was I used the Addictive Drums to Vintage Dry kit for kind of that super punchy dry sound just to start off. And you mostly hear it when the full groove comes in with this really cool kind of shuffle beat. And that's cool, but on its own, I thought it like wasn't fat enough, and they probably layered samples and stuff on top of it. So what I did was I used XO, which is a great organization plugin that compiles all your samples together to make them easy to find. And I just grabbed a couple of the samples I had from Splice for the kick and the snare, just to add a little bit of extra beef to everything. And then of course I'm doing a lot of processing on the bus just to kind of make those drums smack a bit harder. I'm using analog tape setting just to slightly compress the drums. And then I'm using this saturation plugin called Saturn from FabFilter to like once again add that tape sound that I feel like really makes this sound like it's from the 70s. And if you look at my bussing over here, I also like to run my drums to parallel compression because it just adds a little bit more of that smack in that top end. And then just a little bit of room sound so that all the drums kind of sound cohesive, like they're coming from the same place. The last little element that I heard that I wanted to try to replicate was that really cool like synthy flute thing that comes in. And I think he's doing kind of like this glissando thing on, I don't know what the instrument would be, but the closest thing I found was this Mountain Flutes patch from Selena, and I really just added a lot of reverb. And then I played like this kind of broken arpeggio of kind of an F minor thing, and it ended up sounding like this. So, you know, about as close as I can get without knowing exactly what they used, but it adds a lot. And then I'm just doing some mix bus processing. Another tape machine. This is Kramer tape from Waves. It's got a lot of vibe to it. Ozone vintage compressor. Ozone vintage limiter. And here's what I came up with.